Now we're going to talk about the difference between tú and usted. English historically did used to have two yous. We had thee and thou. Actually, we started with thee and thou, which then came to ye and you, and then we just kept you. And so that's the only way. Everybody is formal in theory, but in reality, we're just speaking to everybody equally. Spanish still has its two yous. Tú is informal, and usted is formal. Two you would use with children or people with whom you are on a first name basis. However, if you want to show respect, if you're speaking to somebody who has authority, a boss, a professor, the president of a company, the friend of a grandparent, those are in Spanish formal contexts, and school is a formal context in Spanish. You would always show respect. When in doubt, you want to err on the side of formality and respect. This is one of the areas where people unwittingly, they don't mean to insult, they don't mean to show a lack of respect, but some people, when they're speaking in Spanish, don't realize that we have these two forms, and they will speak to people who they should address formally and respectfully. They will speak to them in the tú form, and without meaning to, this can be a form of insult. So be careful, err on the side of politeness, and then let them correct you. So again, context. Informal, when you're with friends, when you're speaking to children. Formal is work context, school context. Even in Spanish, coworkers would be formal unless they tell you to become less formal. I understand in the US our work context is also informal. This is not the same thing all the way around the world. In many countries, work is a formal, not informal context. And when you're at work, you call each other by your titles, your position titles. And then when you're outside work, if they're over at your house, then you can become informal, or outside of the workplace, you can become informal. So that's going to vary by country, so be careful. Notice how you see other people addressing each other and imitate that. Asking and giving names. So, how do you say my name is? Me llamo. It does not matter if you are a woman. This is going to be the same. This is a verb. We don't change verbs. Verbs do not show gender. Me llamo, and then your name. Fulana is Jane Doe in Spanish. It's just a filler name, okay? Fulano would be a male filler name. How do you ask somebody what their name is informally? ¿Cómo te llamas? What's your name? How do you ask for it formally? ¿Cómo se llama? Notice, these endings are different. Llamas with an S, llama, or llamo. Llama is not for women. Llama is for speaking formally to somebody else. ¿Cómo se llama? Or if you're trying to say, my brother's name is whatever, or my sister's name is, you would use this formula. Se llama. Sorry, it should be his or her name is fulana. Okay? I think I've got that correct on your worksheet. So if you were in class, you would go through this activity, but if you're online, I think you're also going to do a similar activity. So how do you greet someone? Hola, buenos días. How do you ask them for their name? ¿Cómo se llama? We're going to use the formal this semester with each other to practice that form and to try and stay out of trouble from insulting people without meaning to. Then if somebody asks you your name, what's politest to give it? Me llamo, fulana, fulano, Roberto, Cassandra, whatever. When somebody tells you their name, you should reply politely and say mucho gusto, it's a pleasure, es un placer, nice to meet you, encantado or encantada, nice to meet you. When do you know when it's encantado and when do you know when it's encantada? This depends on you who are going to receive pleasure from meeting them. Doesn't matter who you're meeting, it matters who you are. Are you a man or are you a woman? Encantado or encantada. Spanish is a gendered language. You don't have to agree with it, but that is the reality of the language. And so you need to conform to the modalities of the language that you're working with. Encantado if you're a man, encantada if you're a woman. After you're done, you can say goodbye. Hasta mañana. Nos vemos. See you tomorrow or see you later. And then here's some strategies for studying vocabulary. I recommend, if you are somebody who does flashcards, draw the image on one side and put Spanish on the other. Don't teach your brain that you can only get to Spanish by going through English. That's wrong. You should need to be able to make connections in your mind directly into Spanish. If you do create vocabulary cards, consider making a memory game. Or another thing, write short sentences with vocabulary in context. Yeah, just like you did when you were learning English and you had a list of vocabulary words from school and you had to write them down 3 times each, and then you had to use each one in a sentence. Those same strategies that you use to help you with English are going to still work for you to learn Spanish.